Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today is something that happened to me one day. I had just gone to church, and on the way out of church, I was going to my car. I passed by a place where there was a statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary outside on the lawn. This happened this past summer. And I noticed there was a woman there outside, and she was praying. She was in deep prayer, as it looked to me. But she finished just as I was walking by going toward my car, so I was inspired to hand her a card about our radio show and our books, and I was inspired by the Holy Spirit to ask her if she had any miracles in her life that she could share that I could publicize and keep her anonymous on the radio. And she was very happy to tell me that something recently just happened, and she was happy to share with me. She has some good friends who are recently married, a couple. As I recall, the age was about 28 years old. They're good friends of hers. And they had another friend who had just been diagnosed with some complicated back problems, which was going to require several surgeries, and it sounded very complicated, and the person was going to be incapacitated at the hospital for quite a while during the healing process. And so this young couple who has recently been married decided to pray for this friend of theirs who had this terrible diagnosis of surgeries. And what happened was an instantaneous cure. The person went back to the doctor for a scheduled follow-up to talk about the surgery. And when they got there, the doctor can't explain it, but the problem just absolutely went away. So I'm glad I was walking by there at this precise moment to ask about all this. And if you've been listening to our radio show over the last 3 years, you've heard many stories like this. So I'm happy to report this one and encourage the people out there to remember when you hear people who are having serious illnesses or diagnoses or any kinds of problems in their life, it's important to remember that over the last 2,000 years, thousands upon thousands of people have prayed for help with all of these kinds of things and for healings, and thousands upon thousands of people have been cured. If you just Google Lourdes, France, you'll You'll notice that thousands of people go there every year and get healed of all kinds of injuries. Also in Fatima, Portugal, every year people go there as well. There are a couple of cathedrals in Canada. I think St. Joseph's in Canada. People go there, thousands of people every year. Well, I think hundreds of people in that case get healings as well. So this is a great case that happened here in our own state, and I thought I'd share this one with you today. Our next coincidence miracle is something I've been holding since the past summer, and I've had other miracles like this, but when we get miracles, the Holy Spirit expects us to share them with people, even if we get the same kinds of miracles, because the more we share miracle stories with other people, the more other people try to receive miracles. And the way we get miracles is we ask God to help us. It's really that simple. You can ask God anything. He's not very busy, He can do anything He wants. And He's dedicated and devoted to each one of us. So we have a captive audience. When we talk to God, we have a captive audience. God pays attention to us. Even though there's 7 billion people on the planet, He's able to do that. God can individually talk to each person and concentrate on each person. So even though there's 7 billion people, history has shown us that God is a personal God. He pays attention to each one of us 24 hours a day, every second of every day. So this particular day, the weather forecast was bad, but I was inspired. I just kept getting inspired over and over to go to the beach. It was going to be a special day. So I prayed for wisdom and asked for a clue. The clue I got was I got a phone call from someone by 10 o'clock that morning, and that was the inspiration I got. If I got a phone call by that particular person by 10 a.m. that morning, that would be a confirmation that I was supposed to go to the beach, even though the weather forecast was bad. So I got the call at 10 o'clock, or it was before 10 o'clock, and I went to the beach, my fingers crossed, and hoping that I discerned God's will correctly. And the first car I saw when I pulled up on the highway to go drive down to the beach, the first car that passed me was a license plate number 777. And those of you who know that that's God's holy number. It indicates God's permission and participation and power. So I was feeling blessed. It was the first car I saw, indicating God was going with me. And then when I got to the beach, it was packed with cars because the weather forecast had changed by then, and many people showed up, but it was packed. So I asked God, where should I go look for a parking spot? And I often do this when I get to a park that has a lot of cars. I ask God where to go look for a parking place. Well, God is never outdone. He inspired me to go to the very first parking spot, the closest one to the beach, and I would find a parking spot. Well, I drove over there and didn't have any doubts. I believed that, God was inspiring me to go look, because He's often done this. I mean, this has happened to me maybe 100 times in my life, where He tells me where to go, and I always get the parking spot. So this particular day, I drove down to the first parking spot, and what happened when I got there was the people who were parked in that spot pulled out as I arrived. It was perfect timing. It took me an hour to get to the beach of driving, so during this whole hour, I got there precisely at the right moment. I was driving the correct speed in order for this to happen for an hour. I was observing the speed limit, I might add, so that's one of the key factors. If I was speeding, I would have gotten there too early. And somebody pulled out precisely as I got there, so I got the very first parking spot. The weather was fine all day long. It was actually a beautiful day. And we had several miracles occur on this beach, which I'm sharing in other radio shows, but I wanted to get this story in because you too can ask God what to do when the weather forecast is bad, and get inspirations like if you get a phone call by a certain time, trust God and go. And when you get to the beach, you can ask for where to go for a parking spot. You can all do this just like I do. I'm not any more special than anybody else. God does all the work. You ask Him what to do. He inspires you with a thought. That's what inspires means. Inspired is 2 words. It means the Spirit is talking to you. and you'll have miracles like this as well. Our next miracle story is from a woman who tells us that she had had 2 miscarriages. She was pregnant twice and was unable to deliver the babies. Her father had mentioned to her that he was hoping that she would deliver a grandson before he passed away. And that was one of his hopes and dreams, that he would see a grandson before he passed away. And she relates the story to us that his favorite number, and he called it a miracle number, that always seemed to show up whenever he was experiencing miracles or God's favor. His favorite number was 222. That's 3 number 2s. And we have published a book about the meaning of numbers, and so you might remember 3 2s indicates we are existing 2 by 2 with God. We are partners with God, and God expects us to be his friend. He's certainly our friend, and to talk to him often and to try to do what he inspires us to do during our life. And that's what the holy number 222 is supposed to remind us of. They have other meanings. You can Google the meaning of the number 222 on the internet. You'll get a lot of different meanings. But what happened further in this story is she actually did find out on February 22nd in the year 2022. So that's 2/22/22, which certainly matches her father's favorite number. She found out on that date that she was indeed pregnant, and about 9 months later she delivered the baby. And her father has passed on since, but his hope and his dream of seeing his grandson before he passed away came true, and it came true on February 22nd in the year 2022. So it's a magnificent correlation of his favorite number in history in his life was 222. Our next coincidence miracle is from someone who tells us that her mother had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and the family was distraught about it, and the family all agreed, everyone in the family agreed to pray for her, and they did that. It sounded like they prayed for her for about a week. And when they found out the next time the mom went to the doctor to talk about next steps, that the cancer had disappeared and she was miraculously cured. That's all we have to relate to. That's the only story we have. But we have, over the last 3 years, we reported many stories like this. So once again, I want to encourage anybody out there who's having illnesses, God's will be done. But we should always try to pray for things and ask God to cure them. The last 2,000 years in history, there have been thousands upon thousands of miracles of people who prayed and asked. And the Bible is clear: ask and you'll receive, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be open to you. It's in the Bible in the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7. Our next coincidence miracle is something that happened to me as well at the beach again while I was evangelizing, passing out cards to people and telling them things about our books. And I was explaining to some people how the word idea is 2 words. It means I plus Deo. So when you get an idea, it means God is talking to you. And when you get an inspiration, it's 2 words. It means God is talking to you, incoming of the Spirit. So sometimes God will probably he suggested to you to invite someone to come today with you 2 ladies, and she couldn't come, but you invited her, and they burst into laughter and couldn't stop laughing because that is exactly what happened to them on that particular day. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.